10:30 a.m. Members, we have a couple of different presentations today. One from a couple of friends from the Morris area, FFA members. Members, you probably had an opportunity yourselves already this session to be invited over to the annual get-together with the FFA members statewide. We did that here 2-3 weeks ago at the Embassy Suites, and when I was there, I ran across Mr. Peterson and Mr. Anderson, who said that they had a presentation that they had to give with reference to something in agriculture, and I asked them what it was, and it turned out to be information on the GMOs, and that they'd have to do that in public. I said, well, why don't you come on down and do that at the state Senate? And so here they are. We made it a reality, and we'll start out right away with that presentation, if you guys would come forward. Welcome, and identify yourself for the record, and please proceed.
I am Briar Peterson, the Morris Area FFA President.
And I'm Jake Anderson, the Region 3 FFA Treasurer.
Welcome to committee.
It's nice to be here.
Mr. Chair and the committee, we are here to testify on GMOs.
So as you can see on the screen here, this is what you get as you Google the term GMO into Google. And as you can see from all the pictures there, GMOs are not represented in a positive manner to the public. So we're here kind of today to explain how GMOs are good for the environment and they're good for farmers so they can get a better yielding and cheaper crop.
What we have here is a picture of the same kind of oatmeal. One says non-GMO on it, and one doesn't say non-GMO on it. The funny thing here is that they're both non-GMO, but one's just labeled that, so you would pay more money for that. So oats is a non-GMO crop.
So what is a GMO? A genetically modified organism is any organism the genetics of which have been altered through the use of modern biotechnology to create a novel combination of genetic material. So using biotechnology is a GMO, so that's actually using technology into changing the genetic makeup of a crop. So 10,000 years ago, farmers already started using hybrids and making hybrids through cross-pollination so they can get a better crop for their farm. And then in the 1700s, farmers and scientists began again kind of understanding more about crossbreeding. And then later on, they started kind of researching and figuring out how, instead of using crossbreeding, which takes thousands of years to change a crop, now they can do it much faster using the use of biotechnology.
So I am just going to refresh you guys on what a gene is and what a trait is. So a gene is the unit of heredity transmitted from generation to generation during sexual or asexual reproduction. More generally, the term is used in relation to the transmission of inheritance of particular identifiable traits. And then a trait is a plant characteristic. Traits are dependent on influence from genes, environment, and management.
So from a historical perspective, the Hawaiian papaya was actually had a very big disease and was going to wipe out the whole entire papaya. So 80% of Hawaiian papayas today are genetically modified because a scientist actually went in and made that papaya resistant to that disease. So a big reason why we have papayas today is because of genetically modifying it through biotechnology.
And then rice, we had a 40% loss due to pest and disease, and that would feed more than half the world's population eats rice. And with flooding, and there was loss of rice and flooding as well. So when we lost the rice and flooding and with diseases, there were some rice that did not die or did not drown. So they took that rice and they crossbred it with the other rice so that it could withstand water. And now when you see rice, that's why you can grow in water for a few days to a few weeks. And there is something called golden rice too, which is very nutritious. It has a lot of more vitamin A in it, and which can help your sight. And we would like to have third world countries have that rice, but those countries do not support GMOs, so they cannot get that better nutritious rice, so they are healthier.
And as you can see in this picture here, the picture on the left there, that is what corn looked like thousands of years ago. And just through crossbreeding techniques, we have advanced it that far without using biotechnology. So imagine if we can use biotechnology and we can advance corn even further, much faster to feed the world's population. So here, again, with wild watermelon and modern watermelon, this was done using crossbreeding techniques.
And the banana was also used for crossbreeding. So that was what the first banana looked like. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that would not want to eat that banana compared to the banana on the right.
And the eggplant too, just using crossbreeding techniques, we have advanced the eggplant so you get a bigger and juicier plant.
And same thing with the carrot, again, cross-pollination. That's what the wild carrot used to look like, just like a root. And now you got a orange, delicious thing you can eat.
And like I said previously with corn, using crossbreeding techniques, we have very advanced the corn through thousands of years.
And this is another example of cross-pollination. We get all these foods or vegetables from one plant, the wild mustard plant. So to get the cabbage, they took selection for terminal buds, and they found the ones that were highest in that, and then they crossbred them, and then you get the cabbage. And for Brussels sprouts, it's the same thing except later buds. And then kohlrabi, kale, broccoli, and cauliflower. And I learned that with broccoli, if you leave it in your garden too long, that it will actually sprout, and the sprouts will be yellow.
So what you're saying is that, you want to go back to that slide?
Yep.
All those new products on the bottom came from that plant.
Mr. Chair and the rest of
Originally.
the committee, yes, it did come from that one wild, well, not the one, but it came from the wild mustard seed plant. And they crossbred it with other wild mustard seed plants and got all those vegetables.
Very interesting.
So how are crops genetically modified? So using traditional breeding, like we've talked about, the crossbreeding technique, where 10,000 to 300,000 genes are switched throughout the plants. And mutagenesis, that is where you get a big pile of seeds and you pretty much zap them with lasers and radiation, and it completely scrambles all the genes of the plant. And a great example of mutagenesis is the ruby red grapefruit. RNA interference is where you go into the DNA makeup, the RNA makeup, and you switch off and on some of the genes. So a great example of that is the peaches and cream sweet corn. Some of the kernels are all white and some of the kernels are all yellow.
For transgenics, that is what we actually considered genetically modified organisms. Those other three aren't really considered under the name GMO. And what we do with transgenics is that's when we actually can take DNA out of other plants, as like another corn plant, and then take it to a different corn plant and actually put that DNA in that corn plant and grow a better plant. And that one only switches 1 to 4 genes, and it is the only one of these 4 tested on the market, safety tested.
As of right now, there are 10 genetically modified crops, as you can see on the screen, and we'll get into more later on in our presentation about what we have actually changed in the crop.
These are 2 of the newer GMO plants that are foods that are coming out in 2017, so those dates are wrong. But so with the Arctic apple, it's really cool. You can cut it and you can leave it cut for 3 days or more, and it will not brown. It'll stay the way it is. And then with the potato, right now when you cut potatoes, it releases enzymes that aren't very healthy for you, so that's why you have to cook a potato after you cut it. And now with this potato, if you cut it, the enzymes will not release, it will not brown and lose its juiciness, and it will not bruise as easily either.
So here's a picture of what we've actually changed in the GMO process. So field corn, we've only changed that it is insect resistant and herbicide tolerant. So we're not actually going in and changing the whole genetic makeup of the corn. It's just so farmers can use less insecticide and herbicide. So like GMOs, we're not changing the whole genetic makeup of the plant. And as you can see, there are other crops where we have made it disease resistant or herbicide resistant.
And this is good because for now the environment, if we make them more herbicide tolerance and more pesticide tolerance and disease tolerance, we can use less pesticides and herbicides on our fields, which would lead to less runoff, and it will be better for our water and our soil. Here, this is all the testing that one seed kind has to go through till it reaches the market. So first you get your new GMO seed variety, and then you have to send that seed variety to the FDA. And the FDA tests it to see if it's safe for people to eat. And then once the FDA passes it, then you have to send it to the EPA. And then the EPA tests if it's safe for the water and soil. And then after they okay it, then they have to send it to the USDA. And the USDA has to say it's safe and everybody can use it and it's safe for the soil. And then it reaches your market. And it takes at least 13 years to reach the market and $136 million. And if it does not pass the first time and you have to redo it and fix things to your seed, you have to spend that another 13 years and $136 million making it reach the market.
This is a graph of all the studies that have been done. In the green, you can see where the government has funded the studies, and you can see 62 of those studies say that there is no difference in conventional crops, and 7 even say they're healthier or safer than conventional. And I went through and added up all of these studies and added up which ones were inconclusive, no difference, or healthier and safer, and it's 96% of studies show that GMOs are safe to eat and safe for consumers.
GMOs are the most thoroughly tested than any product produced in the history of agriculture. And this is what we're going to end on for our presentation. And if any of you guys have any questions you'd like to ask us, feel free.
Well, thank you very much. Members, are there any questions of these great presenters that are before us today? Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how many presentations of this do you do, and to what groups do you do the presentations?
Mr. Chair and Senator Weber, For our presentations, we do a classroom once a month, at least once a month, and it is either third graders, fourth, fifth, sixth graders, and we have to do one high school classroom or a peer classroom and a adult presentation as well. And you guys are going to be our first adult presentation, and we do this so we can teach the new generations where their food comes from so they don't have to worry about it, and that they can go and teach other kids where their food comes from, so there will be less questions and more support for farmers to feed America and the rest of the world.
Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we should consider ourselves fortunate we were considered the adult presentation instead of the elementary presentation.
I wasn't going to comment on that.
Thank you,
But
gentlemen.
we do have a report card up here. You should know that we're all filling out, and we'll be sending to you, to your instructors. So if there's no further questions, thank you very much for taking the time to come down, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the information.
Yes, thank you.
And have a safe trip back, by the way. Members, next we have the next two group of presenters. We're going to talk about something that we've been talking about for a long time, at least the 10 years that I've been here, and I'm sure longer than that, and that's the aquatic invasive species spending and overview. First up is Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner of DNR. And I believe Ann Pierce and Heidi Wolf will be the presenters. And members, as you know, with the budget situation coming forward, there's going to be some requests for some funding of different programs, and hopefully we can get a little overview of that for those that haven't heard of them before, and move forward. So, Mr. Meyer, welcome to
Mr.
the
Chairman,
committee.
members, thank you for the record. Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. I also have with me Ms. Ann Pierce and Ms. Heidi Wolf, who supervise and oversee our aquatic invasive species activities within the department. They're going to run through a brief handout that we have, a programmatic overview, a budget overview, and a program overview. And then briefly, Mr. Chair, if you'll allow me to, I can just touch on the portions of the governor's budget that related to AIS and the surcharge that are there, and we will be talking more to you about that in full with the DNR budget, I hope, next week. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to Ann Pierce.
Chairman, committee members, thank you for your interest in aquatic invasive species and in the DNR's programs. And I'm sorry, Ann Pierce, I'm Section Manager with Ecological and Water Resources with the Department of Natural Resources. And so I'll be running through the handout that you should all have in front of you. And just a little bit of background to put the program in context. So the Department of Natural Resources has had an invasive species program for 25 years. We started out relatively small, looking at one species, and over the last 25 years, as new species have come into the state and the growing need and the threat that those are causing to our lakes and rivers, our program has expanded quite a bit over the years. And the program really is focused on prevention and management, and probably everybody is very familiar with the most obvious prevention method we use, which are watercraft inspectors. We also do a lot of other prevention methods through looking at risk of other factors, and I can talk a little bit more about that later. We also do a lot of management work, on-the-ground management of aquatic invasive species, and with that, we work in partnership with a variety of different entities, including lake associations, local units of government, the University of Minnesota's Aquatic Research Center, doing a variety of things. Over the last probably 5 to 7 years, the needs in the aquatic invasive species realm have really grown. Our partnerships have grown. We're working quite extensively with our local partners and with the University of Minnesota, and even on a regional basis. And with that, with those growing demands, as they start to impact our lakes differently and the prevention methods get more intense, the program's budget is continuing to be stressed in trying to keep the program running at the level that it's running and maintaining the work that we're doing in prevention and management. And just a little bit of background about where our budget is coming from. The invasive species program is supported first by the invasive species account, and the money that goes into the account is from a surcharge on out-of-state fishing license, and that brings in about $1 million a year. And then it is also supported through a deposit from the water rec account of $750,000 a year. And then the third kind of big portion of that is from a $5 surcharge on our boat licenses. And that is $5 for every 3 years, so it's about $1.67 a year. And that brings in approximately $1.4 million a year into that account. Just to give you a little bit of background on that surcharge, has not been increased since 1993. And Minnesota really has been a leader in developing a strong aquatic invasive species program. Other states that have looked at what we did have also enacted a surcharge on their license. And some examples of those are Maine has enacted one, Nevada, Wyoming. Those are around $10 a year for their surcharge. The invasive species program, the other bulk of our funding comes from the general fund, and those appropriations also support the program. And then depending on what the issues are, we may have some grants that we apply for through the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund or the Minnesota's Future Resources Fund. We also get some federal money yearly that is geographically based, so it has to be around Lake Superior and in the northern region. It has to be spent in that area. On the second page, just to give you a sense of what the budget looks like and how it's split up, I have this table. In the top row of that table, you'll see enforcement, and that money is appropriated directly to enforcement to help them with aquatic invasive species enforcement. Both from the general fund and from the invasive species account. And then there's a breakdown of how the invasive species program spends the funds that we are appropriated. And we basically, that invasive species account, remember, has both the out-of-state fishing surcharge, the boat surcharge, and then a transfer from the water rec account that supports that money. So roughly about $2.8 million goes to the program directly from the general fund and about $3.2 million from the invasive species account. The second figure I have in here is a chart that is showing you the green is the fund balance. So from year to year, what has been held over in that fund balance, that's what that is showing. And as you can see, in FY19, that will go into the red. So previous years, we have been able to have some base in that fund as the revenues come in, and starting in FY19, it'll actually be in the red. The red shows our expenditures, which have stayed pretty much stable since FY15, and then the revenues coming in to that is in the blue, and it just indicates where the fund is going. And I'll talk a little bit more about the 2015 year and why there was a little tick up in what the expenditures were. So moving on to the next page, like I said, the program and the needs have expanded as the needs have expanded, and our partners have also expanded, which is great, because Minnesota really is leading in what we're doing on the landscape from a regional basis. We have partnerships that are very strong and they're very broad. So we're working extensively with local lake associations, local units of government. We are unique that we have the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Research Center. We're working in great partnership with the research center on the needs that we see on the ground and the gaps in information we have on those and trying to get those answered through that. And 2015 gave a group of our partners, the local units of government, money to help them actually implement very local on-the-ground efforts to do prevention, which was excellent. They're doing some great things. At that time in 2015, when the county aid was passed, we were given $400,000 to help the counties develop their programs, run their programs, and implement their programs. That was one-time money. And so that our needs have stayed pretty stable since 2015. However, that one-time money went away in 16 and it is no longer in that area. So to address that, we had to make some changes because as we talked to some of our stakeholders, the need for that work was still there. The need for us to help the counties was still there, but we needed to take the support for that from other places, and that's where we had to pull back on some of the management grants. But just an example of what has happened since 2015 with the money going to the counties, we give authorization to local units of government to have watercraft inspectors, and currently we have what are called delegation agreements to do that work. And we have over 54 delegation agreements, so that means local units of government are doing watercraft inspection, authorized watercraft inspection on their own. We have over approximately 1,000 DNR trained authorized inspectors on the ground. The DNR itself has about 112 on the ground, so the rest of those are county and other local unit of government inspectors that are on the ground. That allows us to do approximately over 400,000 inspections a year. The DNR on its own can do about, 400,000. The DNR itself can do about 100,000 on its own. So we really have been able to bump up our prevention efforts with the money going to the counties. But with that, we need to be able to create the training for them to have authorized inspectors, help them with developing programs, get them the resources, informational resources they need to do that. Other things that, as I said, our program really does a lot of prevention work. We've done a lot of work with lake service providers. We have over 1,000 lake service providers that are taking our training and making sure that they're not creating risk of spreading invasive species. We still are, although our grant program did go down, we still give out about $200,000 a year in that aquatic plant management grant. And then just a couple examples of really highlighted where we are now as a state with aquatic invasive species management and prevention is some of the things that we've been doing with starry stonewort. So we've discovered it in more lakes, 6 more lakes last year. And what we have done is work really cooperatively with our partners in gathering the money we need to try really innovative and new management techniques to try to get rid of this species from where it is located. We've worked with the University of Minnesota because at this point there's not a lot of information known about this species and how to manage it, so we're working very closely with them on some work on that. And in doing this management work, we've had to use businesses to help us keep the lakes open so the public can use them because we had to close the access while we were doing the treatment. We've had to work with the local units of government, a variety of different things that really show how working in partnership can get us much further than individuals on their own. And another example of those partnerships is our zebra mussel work. So we have some pilot projects. Recently, in the last few years, there have been some new management techniques, new things that we can use. And in doing that, we have worked in partnership on pilot projects to test the effectiveness of some of these products. And again, we're working closely with the University of Minnesota to make sure that we understand the effectiveness, and we're working closely with those local partners to get these projects done. And so I think with that, I will let Bob talk a little bit more about what the proposal looks like and then open it up for questions.
Mr. Meyer, I do have a question, Ms. Pierce, maybe this is the time to ask, but the amounts of money that has been spent on trying to prevent the migration of aquatic invasive species, including some of your plant life, zebra mussels, has been pretty significant. Do you have any way of reporting to the committee what that investment has done? Have we accomplished a lot, or are we just slowing the migration of these invasive species in the state? What would be a fair comment?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, so there has been a number of funds spent on prevention, and I think what we can say about that is if we look at neighboring states that have had the same species come in and the rapidness of spread in those states, it's escalated exponentially. It was very rapid. So zebra mussel spreading through Wisconsin spread rapidly. Within Minnesota, what we have been able to do is, like you said, slow that spread down. And one of the issues we have is there's a number of ways that that can spread. It's through what we're doing on the water and water-related equipment that we're using, but it's also through our connected water bodies. So we have a much slower spread of that species throughout the state than compared to like Michigan or Wisconsin have, who didn't have those prevention programs that we have. I think the other thing that gives us a sense that people are understanding what the seriousness of the impacts can be when something moves into their lake is the compliance rate that we see with the laws. So if we track those compliance rates, we see that people are understanding the law. We're giving less citations out, less warnings out, all those things. We're not running into as many people that are violating those laws as we had when they first came on the books and probably didn't understand what they were, but may not have taken them as seriously as they do now. So I think those are some ways that we can measure that it is having some impact.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think you make a good point. And before Mr. Meyer asks for more money, if we could just throw more money at this, we're spending a lot of money at this, and we're slowing the spread, but we're not going to stop it. And I think it takes something more than money, Mr. Chairman. I had a bill a number of years ago that put a 5-year moratorium on the construction of new boat launches, that until we can kind of figure out how to control this, we shouldn't continue to build more boat launches. I mean, the lake I live on, there are 3 DNR public landings on my bay. That's not necessary. And now I got an email the other day from somebody in Ely. Now the DNR is proposing to build a new boat launch on a lake that doesn't have one. And all the property owners are saying, we don't want a public boat launch and bring invasive species into our lake. But we just keep building more and more boat landings, and the boat landings are the problem. That's how it gets transported around. Is there any effort on the part of the department to reduce the number of boat landings? Do we even have an inventory of how many public, private, and state boat launches there are? And, you know, we got lakes where, I think Senator Skoye told me at one time that Lake Bemidji has 6 boat launches on it. Is that really necessary? And all the cost of putting people monitoring boats being launched at all these boat landings when, you know what, maybe having 2 on Lake Bemidji would inconvenience some people. But if we really want to get our arms around this problem, we need more activity happening at the boat launches that we have, and if we keep building more and more and more to be make lake access easier for people, the problem's going to get harder and harder to get our arms around. So maybe a question in all of it is, I think it takes a policy change, not just more money, but a policy change. So my question is, maybe if the department could get us an answer, sure. How many DNR boat launches are there? Kind of what's the history of that? Are we continuing to build them? How many lakes, maybe in the last 5 years, have we put them on where there's not a public boat launch right now? And then how many other public, city or county, and then how many private ones are there. And let's find out how many places we have first. But this notion that the department can just come here and say, well, just throw some more money at it, and it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And I just don't think we're addressing the real problem.
Points well taken, Senator Bach, and I agree. This is where we're trying to do the enforcement, is at the boat landings. The complaints that I'm getting, and, you know, I didn't want this to be a complaint session, but Bob Meyer, you wouldn't want it any other way, I'm sure. But nevertheless, are we controlling it? Are we, you know, they're there for 4 or 5 hours, and then after a while they're gone, and so the folks aren't there monitoring. It's not an easy task because you can't do it 24/7. So those are good points. And the other reason I say that is that we get into the stony wart thing that isn't that old actually in Minnesota. And it was contained, I understand, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, in one lake. And instead of shutting down that lake and dealing with that, we left it open because it's been the DNR's policy not to shut down an access. And now I understand, I think you're going to report that this might be in 5 different lakes already. So obviously it's being pulled out of the lakes by other boats and being transported. So yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to see the amount of accesses and how many more new ones we're going to have. I know the Legacy Fund, I think sometimes creates a public access. You're shaking your head no, but if there's some acquisition on a lake to be able to get access, we have to allow the public to do that. But those are good questions. Something that you can maybe bring to the committee
Yes,
and
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and we'll get you that information. As Senator Bach alluded to, there are several public boat landings around his bay, but I believe there's 200 private boat landings, maybe more on Lake Vermilion. Starry stonewort was found at a private boat landing on Red Lake. We have no authority to shut down a private boat landing. The legislature wanted us to shut down that boat landing until they found out it was a private boat landing. And Starry stonewort is actually being found because of the funding we have. People are actually at the local level able to spend more time examining their lakes, and they're finding starry stonewort, and that's where we found it on some of the newer lakes. Winnibigoshish, for example, there's Itasca County was spending a lot of money investing in inspection, and they found it's been there for many, many years, right? So it's a huge pod that's out there. So as we learn more, as we have more money, we're finding more challenges that are out there and working with the private individuals, landings, as well as the public. And it's really, you know, you can inspect every boat in the state until you have that mind shift set in that you need to take care of this, and it's an individual responsibility. It shouldn't be the state's responsibility, but we need to make sure people understand what they have to do. But it's a real mind shift. Some people have talked about requiring mandatory boater education like we have for hunter safety and ATV and all of these things, so we can start to ingrain in our youth that we do need to clean, drain, and dry, and that we are responsible for the transmission of these things. So that may be something that we talk about in the future as well. But the new boat landings, it's something that people want, people expect, other people don't want it. It's one of the things we run into all the time is not in my backyard. People live on these lakes and they think they're their lakes. Well, some cases they might be a very small instance, but they are waters of the state that are there for all citizens to enjoy. So that's the challenge we have, is providing that. And the closing of the accesses, most of our accesses are done in a joint federal kind of funding with some federal boat and safety dollars, and that does provide some restrictions on the ability to restrict access or use. But we'll get more information to you folks on the number of boat launches and things like that. The actual county funding, that $10 million, is driven by a formula that is based upon the number of parking spaces and the number of public accesses by county. So that's the way those funds are distributed. We have a good handle on the public side of things and the municipal, but not so good of a handle. It's just not as accurate, the private data, but we'll provide a table for you.
Question I have, is that ongoing funding, is that an appropriation that has to be spent within the biennium, or what's left in that account? And maybe she might have mentioned that.
Mr. Chairman, we can touch base on that during our budget presentation, but most of those dollars come from the water rec account, which is funded through boat registration fees. So and that's on, actually, one thing we'll be talking about next week is the state of decline of all of our fees within the Natural Resources Fund. As we talk about the AIS surcharge, $1.67 per year, that fee has never been increased. The governor's budget proposes raising that from $5 for 3 years to $12 for 3 years. It would generate a little bit more than $1 million per year, of which we would use approximately $500,000 to provide grants for applied research on aquatic invasive species to the U of M Aquatic Invasive Research Center or any other educational facility that may have a direct research project related to fighting the spread and the stopping of aquatic invasive species. So we'll talk more about that next week as well, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bach.
I think the answer to your question is the $10 million that goes out to counties based on the number of boat landings and parking spots was, well, I know it was something that Senator Skoye devised and carried in his tax bill, and I believe it's an ongoing program aid to the counties. So, I mean, that was a great effort on Senator Skoye's part, acknowledging that the real work's going to get done out on the ground in the counties where the boat landings are. The counties can do a better job than the people, 600 people sitting over on Lafayette over here. And Senator Skoye did great work there for the counties, and I know my counties really appreciate the help from the state because they're the people on the ground that that really need to get this work done because a lot of these boat landings are county boat landings.
Yeah. And the education piece, like Commissioner Meyer talks about, is very important, and that's something we should pursue. But go ahead and proceed with your...
Mr. Chair, that basically covers it. Just one thing on the local aid monies. Ms. Pierce talked about the $400,000 that we received one time to help doing that ongoing education and assistance with the counties. There was some money in the tax bill last year. It was approximately $600,000 that would have provided assistance for the DNR to implement the Sustainable Forestry Incentives Act changes that are in there, basically taking the program from Department of Revenue, transferring over to Department of Natural Resources, and about $300,000 that for us to continue our assistance with the counties, and that would allow us to do some more grant work for lake associations and things like that. So hopefully we can continue talking about those dollars as well.
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. Chairman, SFI is a great program, and the Department of Revenue has been doing it for nothing, administering that program for a couple of decades. And now when we want to move it over to DNR, apparently DNR has to be paid to administer the program when Revenue's been doing it for free. So I'm not sure why we would give DNR appropriation to implement and monitor SFIA when the Department of Revenue seemed to have been able to do it at no cost.
Well, we're certainly going to take a look at all aspects of the budget request that the governor just came out with, which is quite lengthy, and we're just now diving into that. So, any other questions of the presenters? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Next,
you.
we'll move to the University of Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center. First up, we have Becca Nash, Associate Director, and Nicholas Phelps, Associate Director. Or are you the Director?
Yeah, I'm Nick Phelps, co-director of the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center.
And Becca Nash, the Associate Director of the Research Center.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very
Phelps.
much for having us here this morning to give you an update on the center. We have a lot to talk about, so I appreciate the 2.5 hours we have to
Sure.
give you this update. First, I want to start with just laying the ground here that we at MACERC, although the invasive species problems we face are incredibly complex and we face new threats seemingly all the time, we believe strongly that there's hope and that there are ways towards a solution. We do know, though, that we can't solve our AIS problems with the same information that existed when we got into those problems in the first place. So that's where the center comes in, to advance the science and move towards solutions and solve these problems. Becca and I are here today on behalf of more than 40 researchers that are now affiliated with the center. We were challenged by the legislature and the LCCMR to, when we first were founded in 2012, to build capacity. And we didn't have a huge budget to do so, but we were able to hire for the first time a PhD level scientist to focus on zebra mussels in Minnesota. It's astonishing to believe that before 2012, that type of person didn't exist. Maybe not surprising that we have a huge problem on our hands now that we're trying to get ahead of. We also have a new invasive plant person on campus who's able to focus on emerging threats like starry stonewort. The large part of the people you see on this list are capacity that was built through partnerships. They already existed on campus, other campuses, and other research organizations and management agencies that we've been able to work with to build expertise around these problems and leverage other resources to address our problems. We're also led and advised by an outside advisory board, and we have an interagency technical committee that advises us on the science and the management needs of the state. This here is our obligatory mission statement that we must include. And when we were founded in 2012, and it's still true today, that our mission is to develop research-based solutions that can reduce the impacts of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota by preventing spread, controlling populations, and managing ecosystems, and then to advance knowledge to inspire action by others. This is no easy thing to do, but we believe strongly that it has to be done. We talk at all levels of management from the federal down to the local, and without the science to inform their decisions, and variations on this quote, but it's along the lines of without this information, they're guessing and hoping. We want to advance this, give them more tools for their toolkit, fill the gaps so they can make informed decisions and everything else that goes along with it.
As Nick said, we were established in 2012, and we have been funded primarily through state appropriations. A couple of them have lasted for a duration of 6 years. And for every $4 in state funds, we've been able to leverage an additional $3 of outside funds in direct research support and in kind, including from the University of Minnesota. All of our funds expire June 2019. So we are working to identify stable sources of funding beyond that point. We believe it'll take looking at several different sources, and we hope to have the opportunity to talk to some of you about those options. We currently have 36 research efforts underway to address 10 priority species. And depending on the status of the threat and the invasion, we're working mostly on detection, prevention, and control research, sometimes all three of those approaches, and at other times, a more fundamental understanding is needed first. So I'd like to give you some highlights of some of our research progress to date. And as you heard from the DNR, and I'm sure hearing from your constituents, zebra mussels really top the species of concern in the state of Minnesota. And as Nick said, we hired the state's first full-time zebra mussel researcher in 2013 and have had this program from scratch. People say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's the case with aquatic invasive species research or prevention as well. So with the help of genetic tools and computer modeling of boater traffic, we're getting a better sense of how zebra mussels are spreading. Without knowing how they're spreading, it's hard to know how to prevent further spread. And we're getting surprising results from our research so far that are challenging the concept of the super spreader lake and are providing evidence that prevention can work. We all know that Lake Mille Lacs was one of the earlier infested lakes, and we know that there's a lot of boater traffic going from Mille Lacs to other lakes throughout the state. So we would assume that Lake Mille Lacs is the source of infestation. But we're able to look at the genetics of the zebra mussels and tell you that that's actually not the case. So there is something, whether it's our clean, drain, dry, inspection, enforcement efforts, something is getting in the way and intercepting those vectors. So this is really important information for local officials, local decision makers, and DNR to know in terms of how and where they're allocating their resources. In addition, we're working with DNR, Tonka Bay Marina, and Brunswick Boat Group, which is the maker of Lund boats and Mercury motors based in Minnesota here. And we're looking and assessing the risk of spread of zebra mussels by boats, and we're looking at possible boat redesigns to help minimize those risks. We've also developed a new early detection technique for both zebra mussels and quagga mussels, so that hopefully we can catch those infestations early. And then we're working with the USGS to test compounds, molluscicides that are pesticides targeted specifically for mussels to use in rapid response situations for control. And then lastly, we are taking a moonshot. This is something we were encouraged to do, and it's a big investment, and it's going to take a long time. But we have now created a draft genome of the zebra mussel, and we're going to be using that to find possible genetic weaknesses that can be exploited for control in the future. We're also urgently working on problems of aquatic invasive species, and as you heard from DNR and others, starry stonewort is at the top of the list right now. It's one of the state's most recent invaders and something that's really got people around the state concerned. And together with lake associations, the DNR, counties, and the research center, we're trying various management options, including chemical treatments, mechanical and suction harvesting, and we're evaluating what's working and what's not. And MACERC has already been able to provide valuable findings about some of these first control efforts that will guide DNR's adaptive management of the species. And we're also investing in research for additional innovative control options. And then another couple species that people are very concerned about, Eurasian water milfoil, we're identifying conditions that can help ensure a truly successful eradication effort after they're treated with the available herbicides. We're looking at the conditions that can help improve restoration of the native plants so that you don't have to treat year after year after year, and hopefully you can create a more stable system and resilient system. And then we're also looking at excuse me, determining the factors that influence the effectiveness of control of curly-leaf pondweed. And then invasive fish is an example where the state already did have some capacity before the center was created. So this has been the longest running research at the center, and it also has received the greatest allocation of funds from the center. And as a result, we have some great progress to show for it. So after roughly a 20-year investment from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund and the legislature and others, our researchers were able to develop methods and develop success in controlling common carp in 3 chain of lakes. There's more work to be done in other types of systems, but this is evidence that with time and investment, science can deliver. We're also using locks and dams in the Mississippi River as a natural pinch point to maximize the deterrence of invasive silver and big-headed carps. We're using sound in the chambers of the locks, and we're modifying the gate operations over the dam to create ideal water flows that exceed the swimming capability of carp, so to hopefully hold those carp back. We've made recommendations to the Army Corps of Engineers that operates those lock and dam systems. We've made recommendations for Lock and Dam 8 for implementation of these techniques, and the modeling work that's needed at Lock and Dam number 2 is already nearing completion, and next we're going to aim for Lock and Dam number 5, which is strategically located below both the St. Croix and the Minnesota rivers.
All right, so that's some of the research that's going on specific species, but we know we can't focus on just the biology and physiology of individual organisms. We must also understand the places in which these species live and the systems that they move through. Some of our research is focusing on combining simple questions. Can a species get there, and can it survive if it does? We're combining connectivity networks with new technology that we have access to, and along with environmental suitability, assigning every lake in the state a risk score. So if you have a lake of interest, we can look on this table there on the right and say, where does it fall in here? And this is very useful for guiding surveillance efforts, resource allocation, if you want to find a pinch point in a system of where intervention, education, or enforcement would be most effective. We can simulate those types of things, those types of optimized decision-making with models like this. So this is something the center has been working on for several years, and is continuing to be refined in the years to come. Another cross-cutting idea, we're also building capacity at the local level through partnerships with the University of Minnesota Extension and the DNR. We've developed a training program called AIS Detectors. It's creating a statewide volunteer citizen science-based program, unlike any other in the country, to rapidly respond to threats. Because we know that early detection is critical to an effective response. We have to find it early, and building a program like this helps in a big way. It's a 15-hour, very rigorous, science-based, online and in-person training program. And perhaps Senator Rood would acknowledge that it's also a little bit of fun to, as one of our first graduates of the program, to dig in that bucket of mystery weeds and identify invasive fish, although a little bit stinky. This program we piloted it last fall. It's launching this spring across the state. There's a ton of interest by lake associations to get involved, be a part of the solution, and this program offers them a way to be involved with not just the early detection, but also moving towards the science. This program, along with its sister program, AIS Trackers, that will launch next year, will no doubt advance our research efforts in a much bigger way with all these volunteers across the state than we could have ever done alone in the lab. But there's, let's see, there we go. But there's clearly, and we know, a greater risk for the center to work on too many species than too few. Being spread too thin will probably result in ineffective efforts across the board. But what species do we work on? What approaches do we take? It's going to depend on who you ask and where they are in the state. So, Chair, if I may, just out of curiosity, poll the committee here and what species you all find the most important, just so I can understand and maybe see. So I'll list a couple species and just raise your hand when the species of greatest concern is said. Zebra mussels. So if this is the species of greatest concern to you, half hands. Okay. Starry stonewort. Also, spiny water flea. Not surprising up north. Invasive carp. A couple. Eurasian water milfoil. So those of you who didn't raise their hands either, you don't, any others that, okay.
Trying to keep out of our state? Or already here, want to combat it? Nothing? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the point is that even within this small group, there are multiple priorities that we should focus on. When we survey our stakeholders, researchers, managers, lake associations, the public, what we should work on, it's many, many species. So we've developed a prioritization process to keep us focused on providing the biggest bang for the research buck here in Minnesota. So it's a complicated, long process, but a long story short is that we have technical and expert committees that not only identify the species of, high priority species of concern here in Minnesota, but identify and help us prioritize the research needs to work on those species. We solicit ideas for research from all of our stakeholders. I don't care if you're a property owner on a lake up north or the commissioner at the DNR. I think everybody has ideas that can be put into the process. This last year, our expert committees reviewed hundreds of ideas that worked their way through this system. And we've come up with the top 20 to 25 ideas that we think are could provide the biggest impact for the prevention, management, and control of these species here in Minnesota. I should point out, though, that this process, as you are all very well familiar, being in the legislature, that it may not be politically or publicly expeditious to go through something like this. Tough decisions are made, trade-offs must be taken when you get down to those final few ideas. But to ensure that progress is made to address them, we share this list far and wide with all other research and management agencies that could work on them. If we can't support the project ourselves, we'll leverage whatever we can to support others to do so. And research that we do support internally goes through rigorous peer review to be sure that the best science is being done to solve our problems. Basically, we have an RFP open right now, so we're getting new ideas as we speak. And based on the early conversations, I think we should all be very excited for what is to come here in the coming years. I hope that with this very brief overview of what the center has been working on, we've been able to show you that we've come a long way since 2012. And this is not going to be a short-term fix. We knew that going into it. But these early research efforts are starting to generate impactful results. And we have reasons to be optimistic. We're incredibly grateful for the partnerships we've been able to build across the state and across the country, for the support at the University of Minnesota and the state of Minnesota for the funding. Research, though, is going to take time, so I encourage you to stick with us. This is not going to be solved overnight. there are success stories, and every single one of them took a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication to get to the end. MASERC is well positioned to make this happen, and my goals as director are all focused on a finish line for all of our high priority species in the state. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for letting us be here today to give you an update on the center, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm glad you're spending your resources on not spending too much on ink. I'm thinking Thomasoni's the only one up here that can actually read the fine print here. But I do appreciate the fact, too, is that you're working with lake associations. I've been around for some time, like a lot of us up here, and Senator Ruud and Senator Bach can tell you the lake associations are really growing now. They're really wanting to get involved in, you know, I guess the term is save their lake. I mean, nobody wants to talk about it being their lake. It's all everybody's lake, but it's the lake that they live on and they enjoy and have been for years. And I'm glad to hear that you're using the data that's able to be collected by those volunteers. And I know and my association is part of that as well. Can you tell me, is there any more work being done on the Zequinox study for zebra mussel?
Mr. Chair, committee members, we are currently working with the USGS to test 4 different molluscicides, including Zequinox. And as you may remember, there were some efforts at Christmas Lake. There have been efforts elsewhere throughout the state as well. And those efforts really helped identify the information gaps that are needed for useful management. So we're looking at such questions as at what temperature of the water should we use, which compound should we use at different temperatures of water, how much of that compound, how big of an area needs to be treated. So we are definitely working on answering those information gaps.
Okay. Senator Ruud.
Mr. Chair, and Mr. Nash and Mr. Nass, Ms. Nass and Mr. Phelps, I really did enjoy that class, and I think the AIS detectors is a really good idea. Boots on the ground. It was a pretty rigorous test. I have to tell you, at the end of the day, I had test anxiety when I had to identify all the species because it's not easy. But I think it really it will take some of the pressure off the DNR, who is really kind of stretched thin to go look at those pieces. And each one of us had to commit to 25 volunteer hours next summer. So I think we are kind of boots on the ground, a force to be reckoned with, and we really look forward to the partnership. And there was a lot of Lake Association people there, but there was other people that were just really want to help and want to do a good job with this. So I thank you for being innovative in your thinking and putting this on the ground, because I hope our pilot program will be a success, and so then we can train more people across the state to do this.
Thank you.
Senator Thomasoni.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, even with my magnifying glass, I couldn't read these, wherever these people are on this handout here. Dr. Phelps, I always hear that this takes a really, really long time because the research is very, very complicated and the solutions are also just as complicated. And year after year after year, we hear all kinds of studies that we never get any results from. So you said we've had some successes. So just give me a few of the successes so that I can feel better about continuing with these programs.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, Senator Thomasoni, I think that some of the successes to highlight would be Sea Lamprey, and that took decades and a heck of a lot of money to make it happen. They tried thousands of compounds before they found the larvicide that would actually work. It did not eliminate Sea Lamprey, but it has reduced the population below a biologically significant level where the native fish have been able to rebound. So that's one. Purple loosestrife is probably another, the biocontrols that have been developed for that one. When we say it takes a long time, it doesn't take, I don't mean that it takes decades with nothing happening and suddenly 20 years from now we'll have an answer. There's incremental steps along the way, and I think we're already starting to show that with the work at the center, that little by little we will get there. And each time we do that, it improves the problem just a a little bit. So hopefully, when we get to that finish line, the problem's solved. So it's not just a vacuum in the meantime, I hope, at least with the work we're doing, that those incremental steps will lead to something.
Mr. Chairman and Dr. Phelps, so when you do these incremental steps, are the incremental steps in the laboratory, or are they actually out in nature where they actually have to be applied?
Mr. Chair, that's a very good question, and depending on the stage of invasion and the species and everything involved, that answer might be a little different, but the progression of research usually starts out in the lab, understanding the fundamental biology and physiology of the organism. That goes then into a lab trial, that moves out into small experimental studies in a mesocosm or maybe in the field, larger field experiments, and then full application for implementation.
So, for example, on the purple loosestrife that is apparently a success, how long did it take to actually get it out into nature?
I'm not sure on the exact timeline on that one, but it took years. And there were lab trials, specificity. They want to make sure that there wasn't impacts on the native species and everything else. So there was a lot of work that went into the eventual release. We want to be sure, and maybe to make the point, we want to be sure that the research we're developing and the solutions to control our problems don't have a greater impact, cause a bigger problem themselves than the species do. So the non-targets to native species or the environment or to humans, we want to minimize all that while controlling the invasive. Those are the things we want to test in the lab before we roll it out to the large-scale use.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, I also have Dr. Peter Sorensen on the agenda. I'd like to have him come forward. And the reason I'd like to hear his testimony, if I could, is with regards to the flying carp, whatever the legal name of that is. One of the most impressive presentations I had was when I was part of LCCMR, it might have been Lessard Sams, I don't remember, but he came and gave a presentation. And most recently, just in passing and talking with him and asking the usual question, how's it going with this particular issue? He says something stuck with me is that he thinks we can actually stop this. And I know you've already talked about some portions of that, but if I could get him to come forward and give us a few words on what he's been doing, the research he's been doing, and real quickly, we've only got a few minutes, and I'm sure there might be some questions. Sure. And how to do the funding, what funding mechanism you think that will take, or how much. I don't know if you have any dollar figures with you or not, but folks, of course, this is the fish that if it gets up into our river system and lake system, we all know is going to be very devastating. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor, but I think you were part of the Lamprey study as well for the Great Lakes, and has done a lot of work, and it's quite impressive. So I'd just like to have you give us a quick overview, if you can, of where you think that particular species is at right now and what we can do about it.
If it's okay, I'll just take 2 minutes just to introduce myself.
Certainly, please do that. Identify yourself.
No, I saved paper. Partly because I didn't know what you wanted me to speak on. But anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions. So my name's Peter Sorensen, professor at the University of Minnesota. I've been there since 1988. 1989, I started working on sea lamprey control, the most damaging invasive species in North America, and also the only species that's successfully managed. Notably, it costs $20 million a year to control the sea lamprey at the present time. That's for one species in fewer bodies of water than we have infested with zebra mussels right now. Anyway, my lab, working with sea lamprey, developed a pheromone system that's being implemented by a series of scientists for the Great Lake Fishery Commission today. In 2005, I started working on common carp, the state's most damaging invasive species at the time, and went down to Australia where I learned lessons about quarantine and containing invasive species and the essential nature of that. And since then, my team has developed a sustainable way to control common carp in waters using predatory control. In 2012, a lot of you know, at the request of the legislature, I formed the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center, modeled at the time on sea lamprey control organization. And I pointed out how much damage these species would cause, how conventional approaches absolutely could not work. They failed time and time again. as you mentioned, how difficult and time-consuming, expensive it would be, and therefore it was absolutely necessary to focus on just a few species. I named 4 of them, including the invasive or flying carp. In 2014, I was removed as director. In 2015, my team announced a solution for invasive carp, which I'll talk about in a second. But just digressing for a second, in the meantime, I've watched the state spend many tens of millions of dollars on this issue, and frankly, the number of water bodies infested with milfoil, Eurasian milfoil, spiny water flea, has continued to climb at what seems to be a pretty constant and alarming rate. So that's basically who I am. Thank you for your attention on that. I care deeply about our state. Sorry, it's a little bit contrived, I guess, but I really do care deeply about my state, the environment, the legacy I leave, frankly, and my colleagues at the university. So I'm going to make a couple very quick recommendations, and then we'll move on to the CARP work, and that is, you of course, if I can remember the password on my computer. So anyway, I wanted, obviously it's apparent that what we're doing from a scientific perspective is clearly not adequate or appropriate in terms of invasive species control. I think it's important for people to recognize that things have changed in 2012. We're in a management mode now for many of these species, not a control mode. By control, I mean at a point in which you can control a species at will and reduce its number in sustainable ways. And it's simply not there. So based on my 28 years of experience, I think the best approach for these species, such as zebra mussels that we should be managing, might be a heavy involvement and cooperative. I mentioned the word cooperative because that was in the initial title of the center, between local communities, DNR, federal agencies, and of course applied scientists to you, working hand in hand directly together. That's how it works in other successful groups, where like university scientists, state agencies are working in the field together in the same team solving the same problem. And these issues would have to involve some kind of protection for areas that are not yet infested. Give us time. Finally, I think it's essential to recognize that control is probably only realistic from a practical perspective, from the perspective of this state and its limited budget, for maybe a couple species, of which starry stonewort is definitely one, because it's just in a few places, and of course the invasive carps. So if it's okay, I'll just give you my little thing here about invasive carps, which I just wrote out at the back. So interrupt me at any time. It's perfectly okay. My students and wife and everyone does, so that's all right. So there are 4 important facts to note about this, and that is the number of invasive carps caught in Minnesota is still very, very low. It numbers a handful a year. And meanwhile, I just said in a meeting in Illinois, the numbers are increasing dramatically in Iowa. They're definitely moving north of Keokuk, Iowa, as a matter of fact. So they're on their way, but they haven't increased here. Secondly, the small number of carps that we have are clearly not reproducing in Minnesota waters yet. This all means, for reasons that aren't totally clear, but seems to be a critical number, this means it's not too late. It's time to act. It's very difficult to have political will to act before there's actually a problem, but that is what you have to do with an invasive species. You have to act then, or it's just almost insurmountable. Anyway, to reach Minnesota, every single carp has to go through a lock and dam. The locks and dams, of which there are 8 in Minnesota, are regulatory structures that these all fish, if they want to move north, or boats, have to go through. There are 8 of them. We believe, actually we're convinced, after considerable investment from LCCMR funding into the DNR, that we can stop the carp at these structures at very low cost, less than $1 million, with no effect in navigation or human health or anything like that. So how would we do that? Briefly, locks and dams, there are 3 components. They're the actual dams, which make up about 90% of the expanse across the river that the water flows through, which are regulated by gates that let the water flow through. And fish might swim underneath those gates, but the gates are regulated. They go up and down, and it's tremendous. The whole volume of the torrent in the Mississippi is pouring through these things, through little openings at the bottom. And in addition to the dams, there's a lock on the side that, of course, is very slow moving, that the ships move through, and navigational barges with crops and everything like that. And then lastly, there are pools of water. So if you want to stop this species, you have to look at all three components. So let's look at the dams first. And this work has been funded by the LCCMR. It's again about 90% of the expanse of the river, and there are 8 of these structures. They're maintained by the federal government, whose mandate is to maintain economic value and navigation. This doesn't preclude them from helping us with the carp. In fact, they've been extremely helpful. We've been cooperating with them. They've even funded us a little bit. Anyway, the flow under these gates is unbelievably ferocious, and it's regulated by these gates that go up and down. But right now, the operational procedures, which were established in the 30s prior to any invasive species, are solely designed for navigation without any thought of fish. So there's considerable opportunity there to readjust these systems in ways, fine-tune them basically, so that the barges can still pass, the levels are maintained, but the fish cannot. And there's a good opportunity that the carp can be stopped selectively. In fact, our extensive modeling and now tracking work suggests that only 15% of the carp pass at Lock and Dam number 8, which is in the Iowa border at the present time, and that by merely altering the gates by about 6 to 10 inches, we can reduce that rate over by half. $0, you just adjust it. It's common sense. It's like putting a screen door on your house. That's versus nothing. And furthermore, the Army Corps has taken some of these recommendations, not all of them yet, they're looking at them, but they've started to implement them. This is to everybody's benefit, it's just common sense. And I have a couple engineers working with me. In fact, the Army Corps is delighted for this information because it also reduces erosion around these structures. So if you fix the gates, then what about the lock? Well, our work, which has been funded to date by the LCCMR, strongly demonstrates that just playing motorboat sounds can deter 75 to 80% of these carp. That basically this is why they jump, frankly. These fish are, they're sort of scaredy cats. They don't like noise. They don't like people. That's why they jump. So just by adding speakers to these gates, we believe, and we have a strong evidence for it, that we can get 75%, and new sounds developed in my lab now show 99% blockage. So that leaves one other component, the pools. Work coming out of the state of Illinois suggests strongly that predatory fish don't care what they eat, they'll eat Asian carp too. So by managing the pools for predatory fish, adding speaker systems to the gates of the locks, which again doesn't impact navigation whatsoever, and readjusting the gates of the dams in ways that still promote passage of barges, it doesn't have any effect. Our calculations show by installing such systems that just 2 locks and dams, number 5 and number 4, they're very strategic. Those particular places, it's how they're engineered, it's how they work, and it's their location downstream of the Minnesota River, the St. Croix River, and of course the upper Mississippi River. Doing that location, we are convinced we can stop 99% of all carp. And were we to add the new speaker systems we're now looking at, we could get 99.9% blocked, and there's a good opportunity that native fish would still pass. So just briefly, you've heard it, I was trying to get money for this last year. I've tried 5 times, but that's really where I believe, I think that would be a very wise use of state funding. Frankly, I'm a scientist. I'd be happy to take it from the Boy Scouts, which, by the way, funded some of the gate systems I have done there. Whatever the right source might be, that's fine. I can tell you the federal government is very interested in this. I was just down at Illinois, but they're entirely focused on the Illinois River, where the problem is right now. They can only deal with that. So we shouldn't wait, and we definitely shouldn't wait for the federal government to save our lakes and rivers. So that's my little piece there, and I'm very happy to answer questions about anything you might like. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doctor. And would you comment real quickly on the DNA testing that's gone on, proving that there are some that have migrated this far up? How does that happen?
It turned out actually there was a lot of, in 2011, there was a lot of testing by the government that's suggesting there were quite a few up here. My lab, we did a lot of that work, and the data was probably incorrect, as a matter of fact. But in the meantime, the state of Minnesota, the DNR, goes out and samples fish all the time, and they keep catching at least a handful of these fish up here, large adults that are swimming around. They're making it north, and there's very large numbers down in Pool 15 in Iowa, where they're now clearly reproducing. That's maybe only 200 miles south of here. It's hard to say how long it'll take them to get here, but they're on their way.
So if they're 200 miles south of here, how long has it taken to get there? And
From
some of your fishermen on the river, and I happen to know one that I actually fish with on the river, said, you know, they've been around for 30, probably even more years than that in the southern states, and had plenty of opportunity to come up here. Why haven't they?
Well, they have.
They have. They're getting. They're
yeah,
migrating.
they're definitely swimming. I'm sure they're just downtown in St. Paul. I'm sure there are dozens. Because they're caught. They're very, very difficult to catch and sample. It's hard underneath the turbid waters and the large waters to get an accurate number of how many are there. But if they're caught, they're there. And there were a couple caught in the Minnesota just this year, which is a great deal of concern. Because if they were to reproduce in the Minnesota, given its high productivity and algae blooms, well, I'd like to think you'd get them out. I wouldn't count on it in my lifetime.
Real quickly, when you talk about predatory fish, and what kind of a what would it do to the lake the size of Mille Lacs if they were to get in there? What would happen? Real quickly.
Oh, if they were to get in Mille Lacs, they'd totally change the food web. You'd lose the forage base of fishes. People wouldn't want to go fishing anymore because they'd be jumping all over the place. It would be a permanent change to Minnesota's economy and its lakes and rivers, and it would just be tragic. And I wouldn't want to see it happen. You know, my lessons with common carp, which I've studied, they've been here 140 years. They arrived by train in St. Paul in 1989. If I could go back in time and put them back on the train, that's what I do. And that's what I want to do with these things. I want to keep them out. And it can be done.
Senator Tomassoni.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I understood your question or his answer. When you said something about predatory fish earlier, you were talking about pools and predatory fish eating the flying carp, right? Isn't that what you were saying?
They would eat the eggs and I'm sorry. What we'd be going after would be a control of eggs and larvae if a few happen to get through.
Okay,
this is known as integrated pest management, where you use a series of tools to coordinate, like you might frankly do with some of your pests at home. You don't just do one, fly swatter and a sticky thing on the ceiling. You do a bunch of things.
So, Mr. Chairman, were you concerned about the predatory fish that were eating the eggs and larvae getting into Lake Mille Lacs, or are you concerned about the carp getting in there?
Oh, well, I'm wondering what predatory fish you're talking about. That was the question. Yes, that would stop them.
Well,
I don't want them in Minnesota.
We don't want them. The predatory fish alone cannot. I doubt very much they can do it. But if a few happen to get through these like a couple percent, it's highly likely. Actually, channel catfish. Work from Southern Illinois University showing this. White bass. Are all very good predators, and they would snap up these youngs. And in the case of common carp, we have lakes where bluegills eat 4 billion eggs of common carp a year at zero expense to anglers or the state. So fish eat a lot, and you can use them to your advantage if you're smart about it. That's all I'm talking about.
Mr. Chairman, one last question. We were just over at the at the University of Minnesota last month looking at this experiment you're doing, and you were still experimenting with bubbles.
Yes.
And so I'm just curious about your 99.9% insurity statement there that the speakers would work that good. How can you have that kind of certainty?
Great question, Senator. All I can tell you is what happens in the lab. We have to go in the field to really figure out. And one of the lessons I learned from sea lamprey control is the sooner you go out in the field and get it working and test it, the better off you are, because you don't really know how well a wild fish will behave. But my guess is it'll be even more effective in the field, where there's places in the lab, you saw the small tanks, there's nowhere for them to go to. They can't escape in the field, you can push them all the way back down to Iowa, for goodness sake, you know? So they've got a long way to get out of the way if you've got a deterrent
Mr. Chairman,
in
so I'm
place.
just curious why you're
Thompson.
still experimenting with bubbles if you think that noise is the way to go.
What you saw was a combination of noise and bubbles, not bubbles alone. We're using the two in synchrony, actually. And we're going to add lights as well.
Is Professor, that's something we can't hear when humans can't hear that.
Oh, yes, you
Oh,
could.
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's about 500 hertz up to about 2,500, a pretty low frequency that varies as sweeps. That's, you could, but it wouldn't be annoying to people around locks and dams because the sound doesn't transfer very well out of the water. It kind of gets stuck down there, for the most part.
Senator Thompson.
So, Mr. Chairman, so how do you know if it's the bubbles or if it's the noise that's stopping
Great.
them?
We've just completed that experiment. We've tested bubbles alone, we've tested sound alone, we've tested the two together, and we've tested them in different combinations. And we can see that the bubbles and sound work very well. They like bubbles do half the job, you add sound, you go from about 75% blockage to 99. And it happens again and again and again. And, we're testing it to death. And it's time to go to a big arena. And we're somewhere where it'll be useful. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. So, Senator.
Yes.
Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Phelps, you stated that you've been requesting dollars unsuccessfully for many years here.
Last year, once we realized what we had.
Okay,
yes.
how much money are you talking about?
To put speakers in and some kind of monitoring system, just to get this started would be a few $100,000.
Senator Herr.
And then, of course, you'd probably want to monitor it to see if it worked and improve it, so that would add a little bit to it. I'm just telling you, but it would just be smart to get these things in, see if they're working. You can do it phases, just the way you would do home improvements or something, and if it's not adequate, we have this other system we could put in, which would be more expensive, that would cost much more, but there's options.
Senator Herr.
Mr. Chair and Dr. Phelps, would this be a direct request from the state, or can it be within the University of Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center?
This year it's too late because I submitted proposals last year through the center to the LCC-MAR as well, and none of those some were not even forwarded for actually consideration, and it would have to be direct, and so if you want to get it in this year, the sooner the better. Otherwise, we could write another proposal this year. There's deadlines this May to try and do it next year. You have to ask for money about a year out.
Right. Well,
Senator
thank you,
Herr.
because I think since I've been to the Senate here, I've been hearing about your requests, and another question. This is probably not a question for our state, but something for our state to think for the future. Was there any in Southern State? Were there any plan of harvesting for food purpose? I mean, for marketing purpose?
Professor Sorensen.
Commerce harvesting, yeah. In any Southern State
for these invasive carp.
Yeah, for the invasive carp.
You're very fortunate. There are not enough in Minnesota to make it worth your while right now. It takes one heck of a lot. In fact, there have been 3 businesses nationally that have recently gone out of business trying to catch sustainable numbers of carp to keep their business going. The value is very low. They don't freeze well, and the Chinese don't like, which is the main market, don't like poor quality fish. So it's, believe me, you don't want to wait till that point in time.
Members, we have time for one more question, and then we have.
And this happened in Southern State?
Illinois has 2 businesses. Kentucky has 1. There's 1 in Mississippi. I follow this because I'm on these national task force. And it's unclear whether they're making any difference to the population. At most, they might be just keeping it even. And they keep going out of business, and they have a lot of state subsidies. It's most Americans don't like carp. Mind you, I think they're pretty good, but it's convincing people to pay a lot of money for those things is a hard sell.
Well, thank you,
Thank you very much for your time.
Professor
I hope you
Sorensen
consider
and
that.
Mr. Phelps and Nash. And if you, members, if you have any questions of either one of these folks
Oh, yeah.
about the funding, whether we can get some early funding or emergency funding moving forward or whatever, we'd like to see the proposal
Yes.
if we could. And I guess I see Senator Herr is certainly interested in looking at that. So with that,
I'll
members,
revive what I had last year and bring it.
with that, members, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.